The Galactic Concord had existed for 12,000 years. It was an alliance of 17 different alien species who lived together in peace. They shared technology. They shared resources. They had never known real war. Their worlds were beautiful places. Soft sunlight, gentle winds, perfect temperatures. The aliens who lived there had thin skin and delicate bones. They did not need to be strong. Their planets were kind to them. High Speaker Velith stood in the great chamber of Concord Central. She was tall and graceful, with silver skin that shimmered like water. Her species had not known violence for 5,000 years. They had forgotten what fear truly felt like. Until now. The screens around her showed death. System after system falling dark. Billions of lives disappearing in moments. The void swarm had come from the empty space between galaxies, and they consumed everything in their path. The swarm was not like any enemy the Concord had faced before. They were insects, but they were also something more. Millions of creatures that shared one mind. They did not negotiate. They did not stop. They only ate. 3 star systems had fallen in 1 month. The Concord's beautiful ships, designed for diplomacy and trade, broke apart like toys against the swarm's weapons. Their soldiers, who had never truly fought, died by the thousands. Velith watched another planet go dark on the screen. 12 billion lives, gone. What do we do? Asked one of the council members. His voice was shaking. We have nothing left to fight with. Velith closed her eyes. There was one option. One terrible, desperate option that no one wanted to speak about. Contact the humans, she said quietly. The chamber went silent. Every alien in the room turned to look at her with wide, frightened eyes. The humans? Someone whispered. But they are. They are monsters. Velith understood the fear. Every species in the galaxy knew about Earth. It was classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, the most dangerous type of planet that could still support life. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was full of a gas called oxygen that caused fires and rust. The weather was violent and unpredictable, and the creatures that evolved there were equally terrifying. Humans could survive wounds that would kill any other species. They could go without sleep for days. They ate other animals. They drank poison for pleasure. They had spent their entire history fighting each other in brutal wars. The galaxy had decided long ago to leave them alone. Earth was quarantined. No contact. No trade. Let the monsters stay on their death planet. But now the Concord was dying. Send the message, Velith ordered. Tell them we need help. Tell them we are willing to pay any price. The transmission went out into the darkness of space. A simple message in every language humanity was known to understand. We are dying. The void swarm is consuming our worlds. We have no weapons to stop them. We have no soldiers to fight them. Please, will anyone help us? Velith did not expect an answer. Why would the humans care about species that had ignored them for so long? Why would they risk their lives for strangers? 3 days passed. The swarm took another system. 200 million more lives lost. Then the response came. It was short. Just 2 words in the human language called English. We come. Velith felt something she had not felt in a very long time. She was not sure if it was hope or terror. Ambassador Dohi was chosen to meet the human fleet. She was young for her species, only 200 years old. Her skin was pale blue, and her large eyes were designed for the soft light of her homeworld. She had studied humans from old records, but she had never seen one in person. No one alive had. She waited at the edge of Concord space with a small diplomatic vessel. Her crew was nervous. Some of them had requested transfers rather than face the humans. Dahi understood their fear, but she also understood necessity. When the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace, Dahi stopped breathing. There were so many ships. Hundreds of them. They were not beautiful like Concorde vessels. They were ugly, angular things made of dark metal. Their hulls were covered in scars from old battles. Weapons stuck out from every surface. They looked like predators. The largest ship moved forward. It was massive, bigger than anything the Concorde had ever built. Its name was written on the side in human letters. Indomitable Spirit. A communication request came through. Dahi accepted it with trembling fingers. A human face appeared on her screen. It was male, with dark hair and dark eyes and skin the color of sand. There were lines on his face from age and stress. He wore a uniform covered in symbols she did not understand. "I am Fleet Admiral Park Jun-ho of the Terran Defense Force," the human said. His voice was calm and steady. "We received your distress signal. We have brought 400 warships and 50,000 soldiers. Where do you need us?" Dahi stared at the screen. She had prepared a long diplomatic speech. She had planned to explain the situation carefully, to negotiate terms and conditions. But looking at this human, she realized none of that mattered. He had not come to negotiate. He had come to fight. "The swarm is attacking Vareth Station," she said. 3 million civilians. They will die within hours. Admiral Park nodded once. "Then we go to Vareth Station." He turned to someone off screen. "Captain Lee, set course. Maximum speed." "Sir, our crews need rest after the jump," a female voice said. "They can rest when the civilians are safe. Move." Dahi watched the human fleet turn toward Vareth Station. 400 ships, moving as one. Weapons powering up. Engines burning bright. She had called for help. The monsters had answered. Now she would see what humans could really do. Admiral Park Jun-ho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable Spirit and watched the stars streak past. His ship was pushing its engines to the limit. Behind him, 400 warships followed in perfect formation. He had waited his entire life for a moment like this. Humans had known about the galaxy for 50 years. They had watched from their quarantined planet as other species built empires and alliances. They had seen the Concorde ignore them, fear them, call them monsters. Now those same species were begging for help. Park did not feel angry about it. He did not feel bitter. He only felt determined. There were innocent people dying. That was reason enough to fight. Captain Lee Yuno walked up beside him. She was younger than him, with sharp eyes and a quick mind. She was the best tactical officer he had ever worked with. "The crew is ready," she said. "Marines are preparing for boarding operations. Pilots are running final checks on their fighters." "Good," Park said. "What about our guests?" A group of Concorde diplomats had boarded the ship to observe the human military. They wanted to understand how humans fought. Park had agreed, though he suspected they would regret their curiosity. "They are having trouble," Yuna said carefully. "The gravity is too strong for them. The air is too thick. Medical Officer Beak is treating several of them for breathing problems." Park nodded. The Indomitable Spirit was designed for human comfort. That meant gravity at Earth normal, oxygen at Earth normal, temperature at Earth normal. For species that evolved on gentle garden worlds, it was like walking into a hostile environment. "Do what you can for them," he said, "but do not change ship conditions. Our soldiers need to be at full strength." "Yes, sir." The Concorde diplomats were gathered in an observation room when Commander Kang Sora came to brief them. Sora was tall for a human female, with strong arms and a face that rarely smiled. She led the ship's marine forces. The aliens looked at her with obvious fear. She pretended not to notice. "We will arrive at Vareth Station in 6 hours," she said. "The swarm has 40 carrier ships surrounding the station. Each carrier holds approximately 50,000 combat drones. That means we are facing 2 million enemy units. One of the diplomats made a high-pitched sound of distress. 2 million? Against your 50,000 soldiers? Correct, Sora said calmly. The odds are acceptable. Acceptable? The diplomat was shaking. How can you possibly win? Sora tilted her head slightly. I think you misunderstand. 40-1 is not good odds for us. It is not good odds for the swarm either. It is simply the odds we have. We will fight with whatever odds we are given. She pulled up images on the screen showing human soldiers training. The aliens watched in silence as humans ran through obstacle courses that would kill most species. They lifted weights that would crush Concord bones. They fought each other in hand-to-hand combat, bleeding and bruising, then got up and did it again. On Earth, everything tries to kill you, Sora explained. The weather, the animals, the plants, even the bacteria in our air and water would destroy your immune systems in hours. We evolved to survive all of it. Fighting is not something we learned. It is something we are. Medical Officer Beak Jisoo entered the room carrying cases of equipment. She was smaller than Sora, with kind eyes and gentle hands. The aliens relaxed slightly when they saw her. That relaxation did not last long. Jisoo opened the cases and began distributing injections to the Marines who were gathering for the briefing. The soldiers held out their arms and received the shots without hesitation. What are those? Ambassador Dahi asked nervously. Combat stimulants, Jisoo said. They increase reaction speed, reduce fear response, and allow our soldiers to fight without sleep for up to 72 hours. That sounds dangerous. It is. It is. The side effects include heart strain, neural damage, and psychological trauma. Jisoo smiled slightly. But the alternative is dying. Our soldiers make their own choice. The diplomats watched in horror as human after human accepted the injections. None of them hesitated. None of them showed fear. In another part of the ship, Lieutenant Choi Minji was checking her fighter craft. She was a pilot, one of the best in the fleet. A neural interface connected her brain directly to her ship's systems, allowing her to fly by thought alone. The interface had killed many pilots during testing. The human brain was not designed to process so much information so quickly. Some minds broke under the strain. Minji had survived. She had thrived. She ran her hands over her fighter's hull. It was a small ship, fast and deadly. She had named it Hammer because she believed in simple things. Ready for your first real combat? Asked her wingman, Pilot Yoon Taeson. He was grinning like he was going on vacation instead of into battle. I was born ready, Minji said. The simulators were getting boring anyway. Boring? You crashed 3 times last month. And I learned from every crash. That is the human way. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace 6 hours later. Vareth Station hung in the darkness ahead, surrounded by swarm carriers. The insectoid ships were massive, each one the size of a small moon. Clouds of fighter drones swarmed around them like angry bees. The Concord defense fleet was there too, but they were losing badly. Beautiful crystal ships shattered under swarm weapons. Escape pods were hunted down and destroyed. It was a massacre. Admiral Park looked at the destruction and felt his jaw tighten. All ships, this is Admiral Park, he said into the fleet-wide communication. We are here to save those civilians. We are here to show the galaxy what humans can do. Every soldier who dies today dies for something that matters. He paused and looked at the swarm fleet. Attack formation. All weapons free. Make them regret ever leaving their home galaxy. 400 human ships moved forward as one. Their engines burned bright. Their weapons powered up. The Void Swarm had never faced a predator before. They were about to learn what that felt like. The Battle of Vareth Station began with fire. Human railguns opened up across the fleet. These were simple weapons by galactic standards. They did not use exotic energy or advanced physics. They simply took pieces of metal and accelerated them to incredible speeds. When those pieces of metal hit something, they hit hard. The first swarm carrier exploded before it could react. Then the second. Then the third. Weapons Officer Yoon Taeson stood at his console aboard the indomitable Spirit and coordinated the main battery fire. Numbers and trajectories filled his screen. He processed them faster than any computer could. "Target destroyed," he announced calmly. Shifting to next target. Firing. Another explosion lit up the darkness of space. The swarm collective consciousness felt something new. It had consumed thousands of species across millions of years. It had never encountered resistance like this. These new creatures were fast. Their weapons were brutal. Their ships moved in patterns that made no sense and yet worked perfectly. Send more drones, the consciousness ordered. Overwhelm them with numbers. 1,000,000 fighter drones launched from the remaining carriers. They filled space like a dark cloud, moving toward the human fleet with deadly purpose. Lieutenant Choi Minji grinned inside her cockpit. This was what she had trained for. "All pilots, engage," came the order. Her fighter shot forward. The neural interface flooded her brain with information. She could feel her ship as if it was her own body. Every wing, every weapon, every engine was part of her. A swarm drone appeared in front of her. She twisted her ship and fired in one smooth motion. The drone exploded. Another took its place. She destroyed that one too. The battle became a dance. Minji spun and dove and climbed. She pulled maneuvers that put crushing force on her body. Normal species would have died from the pressure. Her organs would have been crushed. Her brain would have shut down. But Minji was human. Her body was designed to survive punishment. Her muscles tightened to protect her organs. Her blood pressure adjusted in milliseconds. She felt pain, but pain was just information. She could ignore it. "Ghost of Vareth," someone called her on the radio. "Look at her go." Minji destroyed another drone. Then another. Then another. She lost count after 50. On the indomitable Spirit, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold. The swarm was throwing everything it had at them. Millions of drones. Dozens of carriers. Weapons that melted through armor and drained energy shields. Human ships were dying. He watched the names disappear from his tactical display. Each name was a crew of hundreds. Friends. Soldiers. Lives died, but the swarm was dying faster. "Sir, we have an opening," Captain Lee Yuna reported. "If we push through the center of their formation, we can reach their command carrier." Park nodded. "Do it. All ships, follow the flagship. We are going straight through." The human fleet moved like a spear. They punched into the heart of the swarm formation, taking damage but dealing more. Explosions filled space on all sides. Master Sergeant Oh Hajin led the boarding action onto the swarm command carrier. His squad of 50 Marines breached the hull and entered the alien ship. Inside was a nightmare. The air was toxic. The gravity shifted randomly. The temperature went from freezing to boiling without warning. The corridors were filled with swarm drones waiting to tear them apart. The Marines did not hesitate. Hajin fired his weapon and advanced. His armor protected him from the worst of the environment, but he could feel the heat and cold seeping through. He ignored it. A drone jumped at him from the shadows. He caught it with his hands and crushed its head against the wall. Green blood sprayed across his visor. He wiped it away and kept moving. "Sergeant, I am hit," called Private First Class Shin Yoonji. A drone had cut her leg with its claws. Blood was flowing. "Can you walk?" Hajin asked. "Yes." "Then keep walking. We stop when the mission is done." Yoonji wrapped her leg with quick bandages and continued fighting. She was limping, but she was still killing drones. Pain was just information. She could ignore it. The squad pushed deeper into the carrier. The swarm sent more and more drones to stop them. The corridors became walls of bodies and blood. Back outside, the space battle was reaching its climax. Pilot Yoon Taeson had joined Minji in the fighter assault. Together, they flew circles around the swarm drones, destroying hundreds. Their ships were damaged. Their bodies were exhausted. But they would not stop. "I am out of missiles," Taeson reported. "Then use your guns," Minji replied. "I am almost out of ammunition for those two." "Then ram them if you have to. We do not retreat." On the command carrier, Hajin's squad finally reached the core. This was where the collective consciousness coordinated the battle. A massive organic brain pulsed in the center of the room, connected to the entire swarm fleet. "Destroy it," Hajin ordered. The Marines opened fire. The brain screamed in frequencies that hurt their ears. Drones rushed in from every direction for a final defense. The Marines held their ground. They fought back to back, covering each other. One by one, they fell. But the survivors kept fighting. Yoonji planted explosives on the brain, even as a drone bit into her shoulder. She activated the timer with her remaining good hand. "Fire in the hole," she said through gritted teeth. The explosion tore through the command carrier. The collective consciousness felt pain, real pain, for the first time in millennia. Outside, the swarm fleet went silent for one terrible moment. Then, without coordination, the drones began to drift and crash. The carriers stopped firing. The Battle of Vara Station was over. The human fleet had lost 12 ships. 2,000 soldiers dead. Hundreds more wounded died. The swarm had lost 40 carriers and 2 million drones. Ambassador Dohee watched from her observation ship as rescue teams reached Vara Station. 3 million civilians were saved. They were crying and hugging each other, alive when they should have been dead. The humans had done the impossible, and they were just getting started. The Void Swarm retreated. For the first time in 10,000 years of consuming worlds, the swarm ran away from a fight. They pulled back the remaining carriers and drones to the systems they had already conquered. They needed time to think. The collective consciousness analyzed every piece of data from the Battle of Vara Station. It studied human tactics, human weapons, human bodies. It tried to understand what it was facing. The results were terrifying. These creatures healed too fast. The consciousness observed. It had watched human soldiers take wounds that would kill any other species and then keep fighting. It had seen them reattach severed limbs and return to battle within days. They do not stop, it realized. Other species gave up when the odds were against them. Humans did not. They fought harder when they were losing. They became more dangerous when they were wounded. They protect each other, it noted. This was the strangest part. Individual humans would throw themselves in front of danger to save other individuals. They would die so others could live. This made no sense to a collective consciousness where individuals meant nothing. The swarm had faced many enemies before. All of them had broken eventually. All of them had been consumed. For the first time, the swarm was not sure it could win. Admiral Park did not give them time to recover. "We push forward," he announced to the fleet. "Every day we wait is a day they use to prepare. We take back every system they conquered. We free every species they captured. We show the galaxy that the swarm can be beaten." The human fleet jumped into the first conquered system 3 days after Vara Station. They found a world that had been stripped of all life. The swarm had eaten everything, from the largest animals to the smallest bacteria. Only empty ruins remained. Medical Officer Baek Ji-soo walked through the ruins with a team of scientists. They were looking for survivors. They found none. "This is what we are fighting to prevent," she said quietly. "This is what happens if we lose." The soldiers around her nodded. Their faces were hard with anger. In the next system, they found survivors. Commander Kang Sora led the ground assault to free up the Concord colony that the swarm had not finished consuming. Thousands of aliens were being held in organic prisons, waiting to be processed into food. The Marines cut through the swarm guards like fire through paper. They broke open the prisons and carried the weak and wounded to safety. The aliens stared at their human rescuers with eyes full of fear and wonder. "You came," one of them whispered. "You actually came." "Of course we came," Sora said. "You asked for help." The alien shook his head slowly. "We did not ask you. We asked the Concord. They did nothing." "Someone asked," Sora replied. "That was enough." System by system, the human fleet pushed forward. They fought battle after battle. They lost ships and soldiers, but they never stopped. Pilot Choi Minji became famous across the galaxy. Stories of the ghost of Varath spread from world to world. They said she had destroyed 500 drones in a single battle. They said she could not be killed. They said she flew like a demon. Minji did not care about fame. She only cared about winning. "I am just a pilot," she told the journalists who wanted to interview her. "There are thousands like me. We all do our job. That is all." That is, but the galaxy needed heroes, and Minji became one whether she wanted to or not. The swarm tried to adapt. It evolved new drones specifically designed to fight humans. Faster drones. Stronger drones. Drones with weapons that could pierce human armor. It did not help. Humans adapted faster. They changed their tactics. They modified their weapons. They learned from every battle and came back stronger. Master Sergeant Oh Hajing led a boarding action against a new type of swarm carrier. The ship was designed as a trap, with corridors that collapsed and floors that dissolved. 6 of his Marines died in the first 10 minutes. Hajin kept going. He found the weak points in the design. He figured out the patterns. By the end of the battle, he had turned the trap into a hunting ground. "The swarm learns," he reported to Admiral Park afterward. "But we learn faster. That is why we will win." Private First Class Shin Yoonji recovered from her wounds at Varath Station. The doctors told her she would never fight again. Her leg was too damaged. Her shoulder would never be the same. She reported for duty the next week. "I can still hold a weapon," she said. "I can still fight. Put me back in." They put her back in. She fought in 3 more battles with a leg that did not work properly and a shoulder that screamed with pain. She killed more drones than she could count. When the journalists asked her why she kept fighting, she looked at them like they were stupid. "Because the job is not done," she said. "We stop when the job is done." The Concord watched all of this with growing amazement. These humans, these monsters from the Death Planet, were saving the galaxy. They were bleeding and dying for species that had feared and rejected them. High Speaker Veleth sent a message to Admiral Park. "We cannot repay what you have done for us. We cannot thank you enough. Tell us what you want. Anything. We will give it." Park's reply was short. "We want nothing. We are just doing what is right. Let us finish the job." The fleet pushed deeper into swarm territory. They were getting closer to the home system with every battle. The collective consciousness grew more desperate that it had one chance left. One final move. It would make the humans come to it. It would fight them in the darkness between galaxies, where no star shone and no life could survive. If the swarm was going to die, it would take as many humans with it as possible. The final battle was coming, and humanity was ready. The swarm's home system existed in the void between galaxies. No stars, no planets, just darkness and cold, and the massive hive structures where the collective consciousness was born 10,000 years ago. Admiral Park, stood on the bridge of the indomitable spirit and looked at the censored data. The swarm had gathered everything it had left. 200 carriers. 10 million drones. All of them waiting in the darkness. "This is it," he said quietly. "One more battle. Win or lose." Captain Lee Yuna stood beside him. Her face was calm, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. She knew the odds. "We will lose a lot of ships, sir," she said. "Maybe half the fleet, I know. Maybe more, I know." Yuna was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "It is worth it." Park nodded slowly. "Yes, it is." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. Every ship, every soldier, every pilot. They all heard his voice. "This is Admiral Park. In a few hours, we will jump into the heart of the swarm. Many of us will not come back. I will not lie to you about that." He paused. Around the fleet, humans listened. "But we did not come here to survive. We came here to win. We came here to show the galaxy that the Void Swarm can be destroyed. We came here because 17 species asked for help, and we answered." His voice grew stronger. "I am proud of every single one of you. Whatever happens today, remember that we fought for something that mattered. We fought for strangers. We fought for people who feared us and rejected us. We fought because it was the right thing to do." He took a deep breath. "All ships, jump on my command. Let us finish this." The fleet jumped. They emerged in complete darkness. No stars to guide them. No light except what came from their own ships and the glow of swarm hive structures in the distance. The swarm was waiting. The battle began immediately. Human ships and swarm carriers crashed together in the void. Explosions lit up the darkness like new stars being born. Drones swarmed over everything. Navigator M. Boyang sat at her station on the indomitable spirit and calculated impossible trajectories. She found a path through the chaos, a way to reach the central hive where the swarm queen lived. "Sir, I have a route," she reported. "But it goes through a gravity well around the main hive. The forces will be extreme. Not all ships will survive the passage." "Do it," Park ordered. Boyang entered the coordinates. The indomitable spirit turned toward the gravity well, with 50 ships following. The passage was hell. Ships that could not handle the forces were crushed or torn apart. 3 of them went dark in the first minute. Then 5 more. Then 10. But the survivors made it through. They emerged behind the swarm defensive line, directly facing the central hive. "All weapons. Target the hive," Park ordered. "Fire everything." The indomitable spirit shook as it unleashed every weapon it had. Other ships joined in. The hive's outer shell cracked and broke. Inside the hive, Commander Kang Sora led the final assault. Her Marine squad had been reduced from 50 to 20 during the battle. The survivors were wounded, exhausted, and running low on ammunition. They did not stop. The inside of the hive was worse than anything they had faced before. The air was pure poison. The temperature was close to absolute zero. Strange organic defenses tried to trap and consume them. Sora lost 5 more Marines in the first corridor. She kept going. Private First Class Shin Yunji was at her side, limping on her bad leg but still fighting. Master Sergeant Oh Ha-jin covered their rear, destroying drones that tried to attack from behind. They pushed deeper and deeper. The Swarm Queen was calling more and more defenders to protect itself. The corridor became a wall of enemy bodies. "Grenades," Sora ordered. They threw everything they had. The explosion cleared a path. They ran through smoke and blood and fire. The Queen's chamber was at the heart of the hive. It was a massive room filled with organic technology. In the center, connected to everything by millions of nerve strands, was the Swarm Queen itself. It was huge. As big as a building. A mountain of flesh and chitin that had controlled the swarm for 10,000 years. Had looked at Sora with 100 eyes. "Why do you fight so hard?" it asked, speaking directly into her mind. "These species are not your people. They are not your family. They feared you and rejected you. Why do you die for them?" Sora raised her weapon. "Because they asked for help," she said. "That is all the reason we need." She fired. The Marines joined in. They emptied their weapons into the Queen. Yunji planted explosives on the nerve strands connecting it to the hive. Hajin held off the last defenders with nothing but his combat knife. The Queen screamed in frequencies that shattered eardrums and broke bones. Sora felt blood running from her nose and ears. She did not stop firing. The explosives detonated. The nerve strands went dark. The Queen shuddered and collapsed. Outside, across the entire battlefield, the swarm went silent. Drones stopped moving. Carriers drifted without direction. The collective consciousness that had controlled them for millennia was gone. The void. Swarm was dead. Admiral Park slumped in his command chair. Around him, his crew was crying and laughing at the same time. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," he said, his voice tired but steady. "It is over. We won." The fleet had lost half its ships. 20,000 human soldiers were dead. More were wounded, but they had done the impossible. 3 months later, the Galactic Concord held a ceremony at Concord Central. Every species in the Alliance was present. They watched as High Speaker Velith approached Admiral Park. "You saved us," she said. "You saved everyone. We will never forget what humanity did for us." Park looked at her with tired eyes. He was thinking about the soldiers who would never go home. The families who would receive folded flags. The price they had paid. "Someone asked for help," he said simply. "We answered. That is what humans do." Ambassador Dahi, who had watched everything from the beginning, finally understood. The galaxy had feared humans because they were strong, because they came from a death world, because they had spent their history fighting each other. But that was not what made humans special. What made humans special was that they used all that strength for others. They fought and bled and died for strangers. They answered calls for help from species they had never met. The galaxy had called humans monsters. They were wrong. Humans were guardians. In the years that followed, the galaxy learned a new truth. If you were in trouble, if you were afraid, if you sent a call into the darkness hoping someone would hear, you did not need to worry. Humanity would answer. Always.